another round of Motorcycle Encyclopedia. Our cult of personalities and motorcyclists have all kinds of interesting and I don't know. I can't even think of the curse words, but 4-letter words that you shouldn't say in front of your mother. And so we're going to unpack all that stuff again with another round. I've got more stuff listed on this piece of paper than we could probably do in 3 episodes. So we want to copy. We're going to talk just phrasing today, if that's good with you, Mark.
Yeah, man. That's my favorite category. So hopefully I will know at least 2 or 3 of these.
Actually, it's funny because a lot of this has come up in recent episodes. So I'm going to lead off with, what is patina?
Oh, dude, patina is the business, because patina is not something you can buy at a store, my friend. Patina is earned with age. Patina is, for example, I used to have an R75/5, an old 73 BMW Airhead, and it was all original. And I had, there's 2 schools of thought here. It's like, number one, let's do a full restoration on it, man. Let's paint that joker. Let's sandblast everything. Let's get it all looking like new. Patina's the opposite of that. Patina shows the scratches. It shows, maybe a little bit of the surface rust. It has a story to tell. My old pickup truck is the same way. It's got a dent in it that was put there because the old owner ran into a telephone booth during the Rodney King verdict back in the 90s. And, people tell me, you could pull that dent right out of that fender. Nope, I don't want to. That's patina. That's got a story to tell. Patina is a beautiful thing. And in my opinion, you don't get rid of patina, right? Like that's a gorgeous thing.
I think like survivors, like people talk about that car's a survivor. And to me, that's exactly it. That it's like at no point did we feel that it was necessary to rebuild or replace something. Like nothing was ever destroyed so much that it's gone. And so that's it. It's like, why would you repaint and do all this other stuff? Because at this point, you're ruining originality of the whole thing. So
correct.
Definitely.
Yep.
What do you got for me, man?
Man, why don't you hit me up with one of my favorite words in all of motorcycling? I don't know if you can guess it or not, but it rhymes with petcock. No, the word actually is petcock. How about that? I love that word.
I was at training over the weekend, and I noticed that they always use the word fuel valve. And I have no doubt that that is specifically so that people don't say petcock.
Oh, really?
I have no idea where that term came from. I have a strong suspicion it's the Queen's English, if I had to guess. But for folks that do not know, because in this world, I'm of the age that if I didn't want to have a carbureted bike, I would never have had to have one. I got one because I chose to. But yeah, my first 2 motorcycles and even I think my scooter, they were all fuel injected. Actually, I think anyway, it doesn't matter. I think the scooter was carbureted, but I didn't know the difference at the time. But yeah, mostly fuel injected stuff. But if you have a carbureted bike, most of the time the fuel tank is gravity fed. And so there's a valve underneath the fuel tank that you typically turn off when you're not riding. Older carburetors or carburetors that have issues will leak and more gas evaporates or it falls on the floor of the garage or wherever else, and now you can't leave. So they put a valve on there to make sure that the gas doesn't come out. Serves a secondary purpose, that's the whole concept of reserve for people who've never heard of that before. For folks in modern cars, a light comes on and says, hey, you have X miles until gas, and modern motorcycles are the same. Old school carb bikes have the petcock, and if you have it on the way you're supposed to, the bike will sputter and stall, and if you're lucky, you could flip that valve 180 degrees around over to reserve and probably get 30 miles or so to get to the gas station. You're going to forget to flip it back, and then the next time when it sputters and stalls, you will be stuck by the side of the road because you've been on reserve this entire time, and you have no reserve because you burned it in the past 20, 40 miles because you forgot to flip that around, and that won't happen to you again after you've done that once.
I beg to differ. However, theoretically, That is a fantastic point. And yeah, dude, nothing beats when you're riding down the road and you feel that bike start sputtering and it's not running good and you're like, oh crap. You know exactly where your petcock is at all times. Have you ever had a leaky petcock? That's a bummer.
I have not had a leaky petcock. 4% of men, actually. But that is a thing, and I have met riders that do have had leaky petcocks. I want to recircle back to the thing that you just said. When I had that Sportster, when you finally felt it sputter and stall on the highway, you had seconds.
Yeah, it was not like you had a little bit of time to think about it. You had to get it done.
It lost fuel and just instantly. It was like the moment I was like, why do I have no gas? Oh, and it was like immediately reach down and flip that thing 100 and over. So
yep. You do it when you're in motion, and all of a sudden it's like a second wind has been blown into your sails, man, and off you go again. But you better go get you some gas. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've been in northern Kentucky, headed into downtown Cincinnati, in the left lane, passing traffic. Oh yeah.
Oh
was
man.
Like, oh dude.
Do you know to this very day, when I fill up my gas tank, I reset my Odo every single time I fill up for fuel, because I come from a world of carburetors and petcocks, dude.
It's we're like way out in the weeds, but that's what these episodes
are.
That's
what this is. Yeah, man.
I have, let's see here. My Triumph does not have a fuel gauge. But when I got my second bike, the 250L, it did have a fuel gauge, and it sucked. And now I have a T7. It's a brand new bike, or was a brand new bike. It also has a fuel gauge, and it sucks. They all work, but they're all like, it's full forever, and then it's great until half, and then the back half falls off in an instant, and then it flashes gas, and I've still ridden 30 miles with the gas flashing. Like, what is happening here? I don't understand this stuff.
The 1090 was definitely guilty of that. It would go like 50, 60 miles once that light flashed on. By the way, you shouldn't run your fuel-injected motorcycle down so low that I hated seeing that dang light come on, because if you don't have fuel, your fuel pump is running without anything coming through it. That's a sure way to
keeping
get
it
yourself
cooler,
a new fuel
right?
pump.
It's a motor getting hot that's used to a liquid acting as a heat sink to make it colder. So
Bingo.
Yeah, don't do that.
Bingo. Talk about being in the weeds, but write that down, everyone. It's important.
100%. What is a high side or a low side?
Oh man, high side, low side is another podcast that is not this one. Just kidding. So, a high side, low side, it actually is a funny name for a podcast, because it refers to a crash. I mean, it one way to crash and another way to crash, right? So when you, let me get this out of the way. A low side is the better way to crash.
If you have the choice,
if you have the choice, that means basically your tires got swept out from under you and you fell on your side. To put it simply, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. A high
the
side,
front end is washed out. Is the best, easiest
front,
way for
rear,
me to think about
whichever way. If you're leaning into a right hand curve, the bike continues to go that direction, and just your body doesn't, and it slips out from under you. The bike slips out from under you. In a high side, it is much more dramatic, because the bike is in the curve and something happens to upset the turn, the suspension, the geometry of the motorcycle, and suddenly the bike goes completely in the opposite direction that you want it to go in, and suddenly you're over the handlebars. You're generally flying through the air on the opposite side that you wanted to be on in the turn, and things are bad at that point in time. I hope I'm explaining that well. That's a visual thing I'm struggling with.
Certainly, you're correct, especially when we start introducing off-road, because once you get an off-road, there are multiple modes, right? But the typical modes are, especially on asphalt, low side is usually loss of front end traction, so the bike tucks. If you're riding off-road and you lock up the brakes, typically low side, bike tucks underneath you, and you just kind of fall to the ground. High side is usually rear has lost traction, suddenly regained it, and
There you go.
catapults you over the top.
Catapults is a good word.
Yeah, you go from leaning to upright to being ejected by the motorcycle. And if you're in a horrifying situation, chased by a tumbling motorcycle going in the same direction after you. So
It's
watch
ugly.
some MotoGP clips because that will explain this very, very clearly.
Completely. Yeah, definitely. I do wonder why Revzilla named their podcast High Side, Low Side. That's such a strange name for a podcast now that I sit here and think about it.
I actually think they answered that in one of the episodes.
Really?
As usual, good opportunity for somebody to leave a comment on Spotify or send an email because somebody listening knows because I guarantee they listen to that show. And cheers to those guys because they're on like season 7 or 8 now, I think.
And if you guys want to come on our podcast at any point in time, please shoot us an email. And what's that email address again?
motoadvr@gmail.com. So
come on. We'll bring you on.
I would love Spurgeon to tell his backstory on the show, but he probably has some contractual reasons why he shouldn't do that.
He'd be all right. Drew.
Who knows?
I've never heard this phrase before. This is a Drew phrase that I'm not familiar with. Tell me what a back warmer is, man.
That's your passenger.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense.
From it there, I was like, does that back marker? But yeah, back warmer. That's your pillion.
And what's a pillion while we're there? You may as well just combine those.
Yeah, I just realized, they're both on there. Yeah, so pillion. It is the same in both situations. If you have a passenger on the back of the motorcycle, I need to look that up. You and I are deep in the weeds about a lot of things, but it's like, I'm assuming, again, that's another Queen's English expression of...
I was wondering,
what they called someone who I assume, we should probably consult your wife because she knows more about horses than you and I do, but there's a very strong likelihood that pillion is the name of a saddle or a addendum to a saddle that makes it so that a second person can ride on the horse, if I had a guess. And that's probably why we call it a pillion. And then, I saw the expression back warmer somewhere. I'm like, oh, yeah. Because way back when the wife used to ride with me as a passenger, it was amazing how much warmer it was when the weather sucked versus when it was just me by myself.
I've heard the term on mostly sport bike type situations of the pillion being called a backpack. Have you heard that?
I can see that, especially the way sport bikes are set up. Bless those ladies that, I say ladies, traditionally ladies, but definitely not always, but still, nonetheless.
Hey, I've been a backpack more times than I want to admit, dude.
I thought you called it manion.
Mandem.
Oh, yeah, mandem, yes.
That should have been its own phrase, riding mandem. Look, dude, let's just say right now, mandem is when your bike breaks down and for whatever reason, you're on the back of your buddy's bike. Tail gunner would also be called the same thing, right?
Since you and I were recently talking about military expressions, nut to butt is lots of people like to say.
Yep, definitely, man. All right, we added some phrases into that, which I absolutely
I wrote them
love.
down, Mike. But don't need to cover that one again.
I do love it, man. Absolutely. Where are we going next, Drew?
What are tar snakes?
Ooh, tar snakes are evil, man. They're so evil, dude. Tar snakes are what the government does to your road when they don't want to repave it because they're either broke or they're assholes, and I can't decide which one is which. Tar snakes are when there's a crack in the road, they fill this crack. If you think about your drywall and you need to put some caulk in there or whatever to like spackle this thing up, exactly. That's what a tar snake is. And they're awful because it's easily, other than just dumping diesel oil into that crack, it's easily the worst material they could ever use in terms of traction because when it's really cold, the tar snake has no traction. When it's really hot, the tar snake has no traction. When it's raining, the tar snake has no traction.
Yeah.
Years ago, they did that to one of our local roads that motorcyclists love, Highway 60. And I swear to God, it's like there was so many tar snakes. Why didn't you guys just repave this? Like we were all convinced they did it as a way to slow us down. That's
Yeah.
there were that many of them. They're awful. Do you get? I know you get chip seal. Do you get a lot of tar snakes up there?
Let's come back to chip seal because I think that's
Yep.
worth mentioning. It is interesting because tar snakes in this part of the country, in my opinion, come in two very different flavors. Like there are times where the road's really not in that bad of condition and they've kind of just used it to just cover it. Like there's not a lot to it and it's reasonable most of the time. Maybe it's been there for a while and I've just not noticed, but it's usually on somewhat newer roads and there's a few of them and you don't notice them. They're pretty benign. However, there's the opposite that is like you said, it's on some county road that has got, there's a crack every 2 feet and they've created, Tetris into all of this stuff. And it is 100% an eighth of an inch to a quarter inch thick. Like it's this chunky, gigantic glob of tar. And yeah, come August, you can feel them go. You can feel the bumps combined with the entire bike moves. If you're in a lane, if you're leaning at all, like you totally feel the ass end of the bike move, and it just makes your butt take a big bite out of the seat. Like it's all bad. It's all bad.
Very unsettling. Very. Yeah. At a certain point, you got to wonder, like, how is this more affordable than just repaving this road? Like, what are we going to have to do on the back end of this to get it ready for repaving? Like, scraping all those tar snakes out of here? It's ridiculous.
No, it is evil on a motorcycle. To your point, it's funny on a 90-degree day in the summer through some of my favorite county roads. It'll be like I'll go through a couple curves and I go, no, we're riding someplace else today. I'm not doing it. And then when it rains, you're a cat in a room full of rocking chairs through all these curves on your way home, stuck in the rain. You're like, oh God,
yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man.
Let me cover tar and chips. We've talked about it on the show a lot, but for folks that don't listen,
AKA chip seal.
Yeah, up here they literally go down some county road that they've not paved in a while. They coat the entire road with tar, and then they bring a semi truck down it, and it literally is just tailgating. Sorry, I should explain that term. They basically lift the back of it and dump a 1-inch layer of pea gravel like right across the entire thing, just little chips of gravel, and that's it. They're done. That's all they do. So,
end of story. That's it.
Yeah, that is the paving process. So for a good month, easily, this is a gravel road. Like until enough cars have pounded it back down in there, until enough folks have knocked it off the side and skidded it out in the curves and everything else. Yeah, you're on a gravel road for the most part. 2 years later, you have a shit ton of traction. Like it's actually really good. But for the first year, it's a little sketchy. And then about 5 or 6 years later, as you have seen, that tar has bubbled up to the top. And now you have one gigantic tar snake, which again, in the middle of summer, you got tons of traction. When it rains, terrifying.
Dude, when I came up there and rode with you last year, when we came up on whatever road it was, I was like, what in the crap are we even riding on right now? Yeah. This is not good
know
for
exactly
motorcycles.
What you're talking about. It's been that way for years. That whole area is like that all the time. And obviously, as you know, I go across it multiple times a month.
So bad. What about... Man, as I know damn well you have at least 2 or 3 pairs of these. What's a chap? What's chaps?
I have one. Thank you very much. And they're heirlooms.
And they're pink.
Wait,
what do you mean they're heirlooms? These were handed down to you?
I will tell you a legit story after.
Let's hear it.
Chaps, again, coming from the horse world. I actually looked this up. I did not realize this. Apparently in the West, horse riders, cattle ranchers took to wearing leather over their pants because they would get into like thistle brush or whatever else it is, chasing down cows, and they would just get cut to shreds.
Yep.
So they started wearing covers over their legs, which became known as chaps. I say that also is because lots of people say things like assless chaps, but if chaps were not assless, they would be called
pants.
So chaps are specifically meant to just cover the leg, and then the rest of whatever you're wearing is what's in contact with the saddle, both on horses and on motorcycles. And when I got into this motorcycle world, I was a cruiser guy. My dad was a cruiser guy. I was a cruiser guy. I got a set of chaps. And actually, the backstory, to your point, was my uncle was a real dyed-in-the-wool motorcycle guy. I did not know him as well as I wished I did, but I did remember spending time with there as a kid. He died of lung cancer in, let's call it 2012. And so my aunt actually gifted me his leather jacket and his chaps. I'm the only person in the family they'll fit, so I'm sure that's part of it. But at the same time, like, no, I still have them. So like I said, it's kind of an heirloom thing that it's very cool that, you know, he had a lot of old Harleys. You two would have got along, you know. He was somewhat of a Luddite a little bit, but at the same time, he was like a ham radio operator and some other stuff, right? But it is kind of cool, right? Because I have my uncle's leather jacket and chaps, so there's that.
That is definitely cool. And to be honest, like chaps that are worn and like weathered and actually seen some things, that's kind of cool, man. I laugh when I see like this guy was like a district engineer for his company and he wears his, you know, wild hog style chaps or whatever. That's like a different story. And I'm just like, dude, what are you wearing those for? You know, it's weird.
Let me cover a couple things about it because there's no doubt, and that's a whole part of the pejorative section that I look forward to unpacking more in a different episode. And we talked a little bit about it on the front end. I love that stuff. The cruiser community has a ton of stereotypes, and we can make fun of them as we should make fun of all people, to include the Starbucks Brigade. Let's all laugh at ourselves. But chaps are actually some of the most comfortable motorcycle gear you will actually ever wear. Like, I can't stress enough, there were multiple times where I was out on a cold day that I'm like, dude, leather is comfortable. Now, leather pants makes a lot more sense. Because your crotch is literally cold in chaps. Like, that's a real thing. That doesn't make a lot of sense. The catch with chaps is, depending on how they're made, I've seen a friend in a pretty significant motorcycle accident. They can come unbuttoned. So that doesn't help you, because if they've come unbuttoned on the side and they've completely ripped up the side, then the next time that knee comes around to make contact with the asphalt, it's not doing what it's there to do.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you have good ones that stay on. But they are a good form of protection, but they don't have knee pads. We can have a good argument about the safety factor in there. But to me, they are comfortable and they are warm, but so would leather pants be, because leather's amazing. The leather jacket I've had, yeah, leather is awesome until it's not.
Leather definitely has a ton of benefits, 100%. For sure it does. I mean, you know, that's why, other than maybe recently in the last year or two, things have changed, but if you go do a track day or a road race or whatever, you have to wear leathers. And Aerostitch's Roadcrafter suit, one of their claims to fame was you could actually wear it on a track as well. It was one of the only textile garments that was actually approved for such use. So maybe things have changed. I'm not sure over the last year or two, but up until pretty recently, that's the way it is. So there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a leather jacket again sometime, but we're off topic here.
That's all right. Go figure.
Are you familiar with the Flying W?
I'm not familiar with the Flying W, Drew.
All right. Well, we'll come around to that one. What are clip-ons?
Clip-ons are going to be... I think of the Triumph Thruxton as a good example of clip-ons because the early 2000s Thruxtons had a different handlebar setup than the later 2000 Triumph Thruxton. Because of comfort, frankly. Clip-ons are sport bike or cafe racer style handlebars that think about your adventure bike or dirt bike handlebar. They come into handlebar clamps, right? Like, everybody knows what I'm talking about. With a handlebar clamp, they sit on the top of the triple clamp. Your handlebars fit into these. Well, on a cafe racer or on a sport bike, clip-ons, instead of having that traditional handlebar clamp, they literally clamp onto the upper portions of the fork tubes, and that is where your handlebars are, and it gives a more forward, way more aggressive riding position, lower, way lower than an adventure bike. The Thruxton I always think of because they did have clip-ons, and when I worked at a Triumph dealership in those years, everybody complained about how uncomfortable that motorcycle was, and they actually replaced it with handlebars that were low, a low like sweep, like they still gave that look and that feel of an old, Triumph Thruxton, but they mounted traditionally, and it was way more comfortable than clip-ons. So, the SV650, just tons of, I think GSXRs, they all had clip-on handlebars. They're literally, they should be called clamp-on handlebars. They clamp on to the clamp-on handlebars. Sounds weird, but it clamps onto the upper fork tubes.
Yeah, that's solid, and it makes me wonder because a lot of sport bikes and whatnot. I don't know. I haven't looked at a race replica in a while, so I should probably check that out. But naked bikes with straight bars is so common now that you hardly ever see clip-ons anymore. So I love how you threw the Thruxton out there because that was my first riding experience with clip-ons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then it makes me think. So I rode, I think it was an 06 Thruxton, and I had seen many of the other ones, and so I'm like, oh, these bars are different. Like, oh, that's a weird way to ride a motorcycle. And then I had a friend let me ride his Thruxton 1200, and he bought that bolt-on kit with the front Cafe Racer style fairing and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
That engine's amazing. I rode it on Blue Ridge Parkway. It was a torture rack because they lower the clip-ons versus the standard Thruxton 1200 just to make it fit that Cafe Racer fairing. Oh, it was miserable, dude. Miserable.
They're not for comfort. Not for comfort whatsoever.
Definitely not.
Converse to the clip-ons, Drew, tell me about ape hangers. I'm really hanging you out to dry with the cruiser lifestyle you used to live, dude.
It works. It's working pretty good right now because I actually told this story the other day.
Oh?
Lots of people, it's one of my favorite, well, it's a joke, right? There's some kind of reel that's been going around the internet. I've seen the video for years, right? Some dude's downtown, and he's on this ridiculous, like, eclectic bagger with just chrome and, all kinds of grandma's accoutrements glued to it.
It's 65-inch front wheel.
It's not quite that. It's more like old school, like it's gypsy style, right? But he's got like 36-inch ape hangers, right? Like his hands are 100% over his head, like holding straight up in the air.
Wow.
Like revving this bike. Like the handlebars are taller than he is standing up. Like it's completely asinine, right? For folks that don't know, they can make handlebars that are extremely tall that have kind of a sweep. So literally your hands are like upwards of what your eye line or your head. And so you look like a monkey hanging off of a tree limb. So they call them ape hangers, right? So a lot of people talk about this and haven't experienced it. So I had a friend who had a Fat Boy, and he changed the bars out for what they called 10-inch apes. They're 10-inch ape hangers. And so they're like about in line with where your shoulders are. And so people think ape hangers sound silly, they look stupid, that's just to look cool. That's not actually the case. When you think about when you're riding a cruiser, you're like relaxed. I make the joke, you're in the gynecological exam position, your legs are spread out and in front of you.
Not sure many women would appreciate you saying that's the relaxed position, but carry on. Let's go with it. Okay.
I like your point, right? Let's be inflammatory. The catch is when your feet are that far out in front of you, you want to lean back. There's usually on a cruiser, there's like no air protection, right? I mean, some have windshields, but if you don't have a windshield, so you're taking the full wind blast and you're trying to pull your body up with just your hands at waist level, that doesn't make sense. So when you take ape hangers and you move your arms up a little higher, it naturally supports your body weight just by your elbows hanging down. So it actually makes the ride more comfortable despite the jokes. Now, again, if they're like way over your head, this is ridiculous. And I'm sure there's some argument about blood flow and other silly stuff. But when they're at like shoulder level, it's actually pretty nice.
What about when you turn?
To me, you don't notice it. I mean, and we're having a much larger conversation about cruisers anyway. Like my buddy's Fat Boy, and for people who don't know a whole lot about Fat Boys, the front wheel is about as wide as the back wheel. Like the entire cruiser rake and trail and setup and I'd love to go into all this stuff. We really can. Like I think of, sorry, we're going to take an aside because we've taken lots of them in this conversation about ergonomics and handlebars. The old Electroglide actually has the forks behind the head steering stock, and we're in deep in technical terms, so I apologize to everyone. The point at which the forks actually pivot on the frame, the steering headstock, usually on motorcycles, if you look at your bike, your suspension forks for the front suspension are forward of that. But on the old Road Glide, they're behind it. And the reason is that makes the motorcycle more stable at speed. I say all this to say that many Harleys are built in different ways that make it advantageous for it to be comfortable, but make it steer and behave differently than whatever bike you probably ride, especially if you're an adventure rider. It's a completely foreign concept. But all that to say, yes, ape hangers look cool. They look stupid. Many of them are ergonomically superior to the lean back and relaxed, especially if you don't want to pay for a seat with a backrest in it. Yeah, that's ape hangers in about 8 billion words.
If anybody wants a more simplistic way to visualize ape hangers, just think of the Captain America bike from Easy Rider that Peter Fonda rode. And there you go.
Those are some pretty big ape hangers.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, dude. Good explanation. Hit me up, baby. Where are we going?
Man, I had a really, you know what? Turnabout is fair play.
All right.
What is a poker run?
Oh man, a poker run.
Or I could trade you if you want. I got another one for you.
Okay, I know what a poker run is, but I've never actually done one. Have you ever actually done one?
I've hosted poker runs.
Okay, so. I'm gonna let you take poker run then. So I'll trade you.
What's a basket case?
Oh, you're a freaking basket case, dude. A basket case is a bike. Usually you buy a bike and you're like, I might do like a couple little things to this older used bike and it's going to be okay. I'm going to get it back on the road and it's going to be great. You get it home. Dude, I bought actually a Triumph Tiger Steamer, the old first generation Tigers. It was a basket case because I got it home. I looked at it. Yeah, this thing looks cool. Okay, it's going to need a little bit of work. Turns out, yeah, literally the wiring had been cut and spliced in with wires from a lamp. That's
wow.
A freaking wall lamp that you would plug in next to your bed. Those were the wires that were being used on this motorcycle, Drew. That is the first sign that you might be into a basket case. A basket case becomes way more work, constant work, all the time work. It never ends, man. There's always something that has to be done to the bike that's a basket case. I bought another bike one time that was a used bike I was going to work on a little bit. Mice had gotten into it. They destroyed the wiring, dude. And I actually had mice in my house because of this motorcycle.
Oh, God.
I never had mice in my house. We got this used bike in, brought it in, and I took the seat off, and there was nests. There was a mouse nest. There was all kinds of mouse shit in this bike. My son and I found mice in the upstairs. I have pictures of us just taking our couches, trying to the great outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, trying to get this freaking mouse out of the house. Yeah, basket case is a mess. It never ends. You have to get rid of the basket case. It's not worth the endeavor, the effort, the money, the time, the energy, or the ibuprofen that it's going to take to fix this motorcycle.
I think there's an alternate, in the encyclopedia, there's a second definition.
Yep.
I also think basket case is that you've bought this bike project to put together, and it's literally in multiple baskets or boxes, and you have to, it's Tetris assembly or puzzle or whatever it is you have to put together.
You did that to yourself, though.
That's true.
This is if you bought a bike and it was already put together and it turns into a basket case, that sucks. But if you bought a
Yeah.
bike in literal baskets, thinking you're gonna Easter bunny this thing back together, that's on you.
Yeah. No, that's
Yep,
true.
totally, man.
Poker Run
Yep.
is typically like a fundraiser. I don't know who did this first. It's very popular in the
Harley.
boating community. So people who are into pontoon boats with wheels who would have known that both communities, motorcycles, pontoon boats with wheels versus actual pontoon boats on the lake, they typically, excuse me, the goal is you're going to get a hand of cards, so to speak, and you want to get the best poker hand that you can possibly get at the end of the day, and you win a prize. To get cards to put into your poker hand, you have to go to different destinations. This is done in a million different ways. I've done poker runs, again, hosted poker runs where these are the different places. Here's the locations. Go to them at your leisure. Enjoy the ride. We'll see you at X time for the winning. There's been others that it's a giant ride where they put everybody together, and everybody listening has probably seen this at some point. People are blocking traffic, and there's a big group of people going there. Yes, that happens for funerals and all that other stuff, but sometimes it's not. Just everybody's going out on a poker run, and they're just holding traffic at the red light and everything else so that everybody can go to the next place and frequently get another drink. And they walk in and they pick a card out of a bag and somebody writes it down on their little sheet they have and they sign it. So somebody from the organization says, you got the 2 of clubs and you got the 3 of spades and all that stuff's on there. And usually it's 5 locations or 4 locations and then the end, or 1 location to start, 3 locations, and then 4th location's the end, or whatever it is. So to get 5 cards to play poker, a lot of times they'll let you to show up. You're paying like $50 or whatever it is, goes to charity. Call it $10, whatever it is. So you're buying a hand. So they might say hands are $10. You can buy 5 hands if you want, if that's what it takes to raise money for that. So you at every stop, you're actually picking multiple cards out, and they're signing all these hands. But there's different rules. It depends on who's hosting it. Again, if you're in the boating community, as an aside, KXCR actually did a closed course poker run at the Holler one time. I loved that. That was awesome. That was like, go out and ride your dirt bike in the woods at this 1,600 acre facility. People are out there in easy ups in the woods, and they're going to sign your sheet and give you a card and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I love this. Like, I'd love to make that more popular in the adventure space rather than what is unfortunately commonly thought of as a booze cruise, at least in the city, for poker runs. And like you said, some of the cruiser community is pretty well known for that. And I've seen some pretty wild ones for sure. Folks are very loaded at the end.
The thing about a poker run is that if it's done right, it can be a really great way to, number one, they're almost always done to raise money for charity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a huge, huge draw for that. And we did them at the shop I worked at, years ago for that reason. It can also be a way, like, if you can actually manage to make the poker run go from business to business to business, to get people into a brick and mortar. And so it can be done. It kind of has, admittedly, a well-deserved bad reputation, I think, a lot of times. But man, when they're done right, they're done really well. And a lot of times you'll see these things pop up around Christmas with the Toys for Tots and that sort of thing. So don't just hear the word poker run and literally run away from it, because if it's done right, you might actually get a lot out of it.
I look forward to unpacking the full story in a different episode. But I mean, the rally that shall not be named exists because I used to do poker runs with a club. Like, I could not do one without the other. That was a foundation that was built on building routes and rides and making sure people are having a good time and promoting business and other stuff. So you're right, they can be done right. But I have been on a lot, or been near, if not like not necessarily in the ride, but I'm sure I've been in the ride too. Like, these folks are having a beer, if not 2, at every stop.
Yep.
So, but at the end, they check everybody's hand. Whoever has the best hand wins a prize. There'll be, 50-50 split the pot stuff, like anything you've ever seen at any other, Monte Carlo charity event type stuff. So, but unfortunately, it's heavily associated with loud pipes and booze.
Loud pipes save lives. Hit me, dude.
Why would brakes ever have shoes?
Oh man, I'm not. I'm gonna have to take a pass on that one because I'm not gonna be technically savvy enough to be able to explain that to people.
Let's see if I can pull that one off
All
next.
right.
Fine. What's a Farkle?
Okay. How dare you? First of all, Farkle, you already know. Drew knows I hate the word Farkle because it is the dumbest crap I've ever heard of.
You mean Farkles are dumb, or the word Farkle is
The
dumb?
word Farkle is dumb. Farkles themselves have a level of dumb also. However, a Farkle is just a trinket or a gadget, an aftermarket accessory that you've put on your motorcycle. This is synonymous with adventure riders. The word Farkle, I started noticing it 20 years ago on adventurerider.com forum. I don't know. It's like sparkle, like I don't even know how they came to this entire word to be honest with you. It's so dumb. I hate it when people call things a farkle. But it's like, oh, a farkle is something that I bolted on like, oh, I got this quad lock mount. That's a farkle. Or I got some highway pegs and bolted it on. That's a farkle. I got you know, I can't even think. Some hand guards. That's a Farkle. Literally anything that you can buy and put on there, a Farkle. And by the way, the more useless it is, the more Farkly it is in terms of where does it fall on the Farkle scale. If you buy an aftermarket seat, I'm not considering that a Farkle. You know, if you
The
buy
Go
some
ahead.
Chinesium phone mount, that's a Farkle.
The definition that I just checked is functional sparkle.
Ugh, that's probably about right. Yeah, that's probably about right. If you bought chrome valve stem covers for your bike because you thought they looked better, you know, or ones that look like a bullet, like a piece of ammunition, yeah, yeah,
In the pejoratives corner, I would say matching orange anodized everything is a farkle. That is
yeah.
the way that I see it.
Put it this way: if you ride a KTM and you bought a Farkle, the orange anodization doesn't match the KTM orange either. It's like a different color
True.
orange. like,
That's 100% true.
like you can always go, oh, that was an AliExpress Farkle. Good way
Yep.
to go. I love that Brake Master cylinder cover protector that you just bought. You know,
I have experienced that firsthand. I'm definitely gonna mess up the brake shoes thing a little bit,
it's
but
a
I'm gonna
hard
attempt
one,
to work
man.
on that.
Please.
So I rode a bike with brake shoes over the weekend. Haven't done that. That might be the first time ever. If it's not, it's very close
What
to
bike was
like
it?
TW200. There is nothing
Uh,
else. Yeah, there
okay.
is nothing else.
All right.
There are other bikes with brake shoes, clearly, but it was one of those like, hey, this has no shit, what they called drum brakes back in the day. So when most of us think of brakes on a motorcycle, especially modern motorcycle, when you look at them, there's a disc, a big, chrome looking, it's not chrome, but a big shiny metal disc that's on there. And there's two brake pads that kind of smash that from either side, from the left and the right, and squeeze it. And that's actually what slows down your front tire. Back in the day, there was like a drum that's like in the hub of the motorcycle. And to engage the brakes, when you pushed on the brake pedal, there's a control arm, for lack of a better term, a rod that presses on a lever, and that lever actually puts pressure on springs and a bunch of other mechanisms that go inside the drum and press these, convex brake shoes against the drum, and that's actually what slowed the motorcycle down. Cars used to be that way. Like, I'm old enough that I've done drum brakes on a car. I think my 2007 Chevy Cobalt actually had drums on the
I have
back,
to
if I
say,
remember correctly.
it wasn't even that long
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have all-wheel disc, but all-wheel disc is not very new in the car world. And in the motorcycle world, we're quite spoiled, actually, that disc is very common, especially for rear. But if you start getting into older dual sports that have heritage that goes back into the early 80s, if not longer, I forget how old the T-Dub is, but it's not young, that's for sure. But yeah, they still have drums. So they have brake shoes. So it's not brake pads, they call them brake shoes. And it's basically braking in a completely different direction than you're doing on a modern bike. So
Yep.
that's what brake shoes
They
are.
do not brake as well.
Yeah, it's we'll say wooden to say the least.
Yep.
And I noticed there were a couple times when I would let the clutch out in a couple different ways, there was a lot going on back there between chain slack and drum brakes. I was like, oh, this bike is lively at low speeds and in tight corners. So there's that.
That's awesome. That's the first time anybody's ever used the word lively and TW200 in the same sentence.
It had a lot going on. So
I bet it did.
what is two up?
Two up goes back to our discussion about pillions, backpacks, back warmers, and that whole thing. Two up is simply you got two people on your motorcycle. You got you and your bride on the back, or you and your buddy on the back, whatever. I'm not here to judge anybody, but it's literally just two people on the motorcycle. That's all it means.
It is a funny, like, that is almost always the way you hear it described everywhere else. Motorcyclists don't say, I had a passenger.
Right.
It is weird how we all just sit around. It was like, I was riding two up one day. Like a normal person walking past us would have no clue what we're talking about.
That is true. I never thought about it.
I think lots of people listening are like, oh, I know what two up is. Like that's not uncommon to me at all.
Yeah.
But for non-motorcyclists, it's like two up. Why didn't you just say you were riding with a passenger? And
Yeah,
why do you call
right.
your passenger a pillion? Like this.
True. Because of equestrian. Duh.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the case, but yeah, it is so weird that two up is like complete vernacular. Nobody thinks twice about it, but no one has a clue what you're saying if you don't ride motorcycles.
It's true. It is one of those things. Just comes up with it, man. Let me think about this here, Drew. I don't actually know what this is, so I'm going to ask you, my friend. Flying W. What
It's,
in the world is that?
There is a wonderful movie that everyone listening should watch called On a Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
You've
I'm with
probably
you.
seen it, actually.
At least 230 times.
There is a point where you are riding off-road wherever you are, and you have come off the bike, and it is hands extended out, and so your hands wide flapping through the air form the outside of the W as your head and legs and whatnot kind of form the rest of it. I don't fully understand why they say W, but it is very much like your extremities are everywhere in the air as you are essentially cartwheeling off of the motorcycle. It is highly related to what we said in the last episode, yard sale.
I'm going to have to watch On Any Sunday again. Now, this sounds like research, and maybe I can get a tax write-off on it, but I don't remember Flying W being... I don't remember that phrase at all. That's crazy, man.
I'm pretty sure that he defined Flying W relatively early when he was talking about motocross, if I remember correctly. So.
I'm sure he did. Just because I don't remember it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Believe me, dude.
Yeah, that was that movie used to be pretty available on Netflix way back in the day, and it was free on a couple things. I can't remember when. That's really hard to find anymore.
Go back and watch our movie episode because
On Any Sunday is still one of my favorites. I wouldn't call it my favorite motorcycle movie, but it's very good. I wish they would do a more modern rendition of that than the ones they've done. I like the ones they've done, but they're not as good as that one.
Well, now I have to ask you what your favorite motorcycle movie is. Don't say Ghost Rider because that's obvious.
No, I stand by, and we did it in an episode. I still stand by Dust to Glory is probably my favorite. It's a documentary, but probably my favorite motorcycle movie. If we're talking about fiction, I'd have to think about that. Because you and I talked about in that episode that I have a lot of movies that I like that have motorcycles in them, but there's a big difference between a motorcycle is in it versus it's a motorcycle movie.
Yeah,
I would probably say off the cuff, especially because it came up today, Tron. Tron's one that's like, yes, motorcycles are in that, but motorcycles are a huge component of the actual film. Like it's the part most people remember about the movie is the motorcycle.
The light cycle's the business, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So
good call.
There you go. And folks should check that up. You hit me with Flying W, which means I'm going to ask you, what does bend mean?
Bend is just that you crashed your bike, man. You bend that bike, you crash that bike. That bike now belongs in a dumpster. A
Headed to the
dumpster,
scrap
a
bin.
bin, exactly. Scrap bin, a bin. I guess that sounds like another one of those British words. Like it's going in the bin, the rubbish bin. It's total junk. It's not worth saving. It's worth nothing. It's worth scrap. That's it. That's
Yep,
that's
I
just
bend
it.
it. Usually, I find that, like I said, the Queen's English, they love motorcycles and have better words than we do by a large margin.
They have
That's
better
for
words
sure.
for
Yeah,
everything
most of them
than we
like,
do.
I about bend it just now, or I bend it one day, and they're not meaning like really bad. It's funny because it is a word that like it means going in the scrap bin, right? But at the same
Yep.
time, it's like, nah, I crashed and everything worked out.
Yeah, I think we should do the next one of these Motopedia episodes all in our best British accents.
Oh God. If I
Yes,
was
sir.
capable of such a thing, I would absolutely do that. That is for
Right.
sure. Absolutely that.
Yeah,
What do you
man.
got?
Drew, talk to me about rubber mounts,
Oh
baby.
man. No, there's no S there. We're talking about rubber mount.
Rubber mount. I just met her.
There is that. That's for sure. Phrasing. We're playing phrasing again.
Yep.
Um, I'm a I'm a little bit of a Sportster aficionado. I don't think
You can't say that.
and we're talking Evo only, right? Like I love the Harley Davidson Evolution engine that's in the Sportster. I love it. I don't know. I know somewhat about the big bore Evolution engine, but the Evolution that's from essentially 1985 to what is now I think 2020. I think 2020 is the last year. There could be 2021s. I don't know. But yeah, from 1985 to 2020, Harley Davidson made the Evolution Sportster engine. I don't remember if it started at 750 and they made 1,000, they made 1,100, then eventually they made a 1,200, and then everyone pretty much knew the 883 and the 1,200 Sportster engine. I'm going to wax poetic because this is a podcast and I love that.
And it's yours, so do what you want.
Yeah, it's we're gonna probably get into engine stuff, but it's a push rod engine, it's low revolutions, and it makes a pretty noise. And I personally think that among motorcycle sounds, a carbureted Evo engine is probably the greatest Harley Davidson sound out there. I will concede to folks who are older than me, who know Harley better. I believe you if you tell me a knuckle up hand or an iron head sounds better. I'm totally open to that. I don't know those engines as well, but I love the old Evo. The thing is before 2004, all of those engines are bolted directly to the frame, and the frame is lighter than the modern frame after 2003, and they're paint shakers. They're 5 speeds, and at high RPMs, it is vibrating the fillings out of your teeth. It is a visceral experience. There's no doubt that's why everybody complains that they only have a 5-speed. They need a custom seat. They need to have special pegs and all this other stuff. In 2004, they rubber mounted the engine into the frame and they beefed up the frame so that it could, quote, handle the stresses of whatever else it is, or potentially dampen the vibration to make it more to deal with better. Basically, it made the bike heavier, and it made the bike heavier by a lot. My buddy Jeff Sportster, because a lot of people are like, why would you turn a Sportster into an adventure bike? Because my buddy Jeff Sportster weighs 460 pounds, and
Because it's not rubber mounted.
right. It was a solid mount, and it was let's see, we built that in 2017. So in 2017, before the T7, before the 890, before any of that, he had a rubber mount Sportster with 7 inches of suspension travel. Like that.
What you said, it was solid mount.
Sorry, he had a solid mount, but he had a Sportster with 7 inches of suspension travel that weighed 460 pounds as a solid mount, and people were like, they couldn't believe it. It's like, yeah, like we could have lighter bikes, but it comes with consequences. So when I bought my Sportster, I made sure I got a rubber mount because I knew I would ride it on the highway and stuff. And it was miserable riding Jeff's bike for long distances. I rode it to places you've been. I rode it down to the Southern High Adventure Loop and whatnot. I'm like, holy crap, this is rough.
Really? So it makes that big of a difference?
I mean, different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, we could say that men were built harder than they are today.
Sportster's a girl's bike anyway, right?
Probably true, right? But yeah, the rubber mount is a big deal. So every Sportster from 2004 on was a rubber mount. And then in 2008 or 9-ish, depending on model year, whatever, they became fuel injected. So I had a carbureted 2006 rubber mount. So I wanted a carbureted Sportster and I wanted a rubber mount Sportster. So that's why that's on here. But it's a kind of a Harley's full of these terms, right? We could talk about all kinds of things, popsicles and what is it, spam can, or there's some. Lemmy did a great article on Revzilla. Go read it. But yeah, everything about cruisers and whatnot. And it's all related to food. It's hilarious.
Make Lemmy great again, by the way. But they so there were only a few years where it was carbureted, rubber mount, beefier frame.
04, 05, 06, and I believe 07. I think you can get 08 and fuel injection, and I'm not positive about 07 fuel injection. Now, the frame's the same. Well, there's a lot that goes into nuances about frames and whatnot, but essentially all of them, everything from 2004 on is heavier than before because it's not solid mounted anymore.
Interesting.
So all of them gained weight to when they switched to rubber mounts. And know that now those bikes are just generally heavier. They're 500-pound bikes versus, we'll call it 480. I don't know what it was stock, but pre 2003 and older are solid mount. But yeah,
all right.
That's the thing is, if you like, noise and sound and vibration, and you're not in a hurry and you just want to lug the bike around all the time, solid mount's not a big deal. But if you're going to ride on a highway, fifth gear, it's screaming. That's why you hear everybody say they need a bigger bike. It has nothing to do with the capacity of the engine. It has everything to do with 5-speed solid mount and low RPM ceiling. But we can talk about the technical stuff in a different episode.
So yeah, I don't want to harp on this too much longer, but so when they did the rubber mounted, they do a 6-speed also, or is it still a 5-speed?
Somebody's gonna have to correct me on this, but I don't know when or if they switched to a 6-speed, if ever.
Okay,
on
fair
a
enough.
I
put you on the spot there.
I think they're all 5-speeds on that.
Okay.
So now, if somebody knows, leave a comment because I do want to know. But I don't know if they put 6-speeds in that or not.
Gotcha.
I can go on a tirade about 1200 versus 883. The transmissions are different, blah, 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 blah. But yeah.
I'm sure you can, but that's a lot of Harley talk in a small amount of time. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's more than I knew about Sportsters before this episode. I'm going to be honest with you. That's actually pretty cool.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I'm going to ask you a really awkward question.
Oh, I've been waiting.
What's the twat?
Dude, every one of these off-road routes, regional routes, forget about the BDR, right? This stuff predates BDR. The twat was the Trans-Wisconsin Adventure Trail. So all these routes, they had like the TAT, the Trans-America Trail, Down here we got the SEAT, the Southeast Adventure Trail. You've got, the DBBB doesn't really spell anything. Yeah, the soul, exactly, right? So that's the Southern Ohio Adventure Loop, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's just an acronym, literally, for Trans-Wisconsin Adventure Trail. And TWAT just happens to be the best one of these names because,
you will never forget it.
It's easy to remember. I don't know what the stickers look like for the route once you're completed with the route, but who can forget that? It's amazing. So, whoever came up with that, I have no idea who came up with the Trans-Wisconsin Adventure Trail, but my hat's off to them because that's an incredible name, and I love it. So, to me, that just leads into the bigger discussion of we have all these routes available to us, and they all have little names like, we do love our acronyms in the adventure space. We had the dogs at Dual Sporters of Georgia. You got the soul, like you talked about. There's just so many. It's incredible to try to come up with it. It's hard. When you came up with the soul, I remember it's like, hey, what do you think about this one? What do you think about this one?
No,
what do you think about that
the
one?
BRAP.
The BRAP. I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize. The BRAP. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, how do we throw Kentucky in here with something that's got to catch
you? Yeah. I'm very sorry. That's it.
I'm totally stealing this.
Yeah. And the BRAP is the Bluegrass Regional Appalachian Passageway. Remind me again. I'm screwing it up.
Yeah,
Adventure.
Appalachian Passageway would work too.
It would. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yep. That's it. That's the twat, man, or the
All
twat.
right, hit me with one more, and then we'll close it down here.
All right, let's do that. Why don't let's finish this on a good, fun note. Talk to me about a hack.
Oh, yeah, another passion project of mine. This also came up in conversation the past 48, 72 hours. A hack is another name for a sidecar. Installing a sidecar usually means making semi-permanent changes to a motorcycle. Yeah. Like you've usually, depending on how it's done, you've potentially changed the frame. Like, and you might be able to ride it as a regular motorcycle again, maybe, depending on how crazy it's been. But many times you're like welding stuff on the frame to attach a sidecar to it. So they call it hacking a motorcycle. Is you're putting a sidecar on the side. Anyone who's listened for a long time. Oh yeah, exactly. Like anybody's listened to a long time. We've had guests on the show talk about sidecars in the past, and I recommend folks go listen to that episode from Nashville. That sidecars is an experience like nothing else. I can't wait to get one. I'm still kind of always lurking for a deal on one because there's no other experience like it. But yeah, that hacking a motorcycle is putting a sidecar on there.
Perfect.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of stuff here. I hope folks are enjoying this. Like I said, we've got some other topics. Today was phrasing, so it's goofy words that we want to do. I do want to get into some of the more technical stuff, some of the more stuff about engines, because clearly I'm an engine nerd if we didn't discover that in the past 2 episodes. But if we've missed something, do us a favor. If there's a word that you think is interesting in the motorcycle community that people don't know, or there really is a word that you don't know what it means, do us a favor, leave us a comment, send us email, motoadvr@gmail.com. Anything else, Mark?
No, I'm just glad that this Motopedia isn't about pronunciation and about saying words the right way, because we've proven we're not good in that aspect of this. But hopefully these are fun. These are fun.
All right. With that, we'll catch the listeners down the road.